Welcome to the School of the Lost Tribes. For the chosen of the Most High, who need to study to show themselves approved unto the Messiah, sign up at schooloftheLostTribes.teachable.com. The true meaning of tithes, a law for the scattered tribes of Israel. Tithing is one of the most misunderstood principles in the Scriptures. Many believe that tithes are a universal law meant for all people, but according to the exclusive doctrine of the scattered lost tribes, tithing was established solely for the descendants of Jacob, specifically for the Levitical priesthood, who were set apart to serve the nation of Israel. As we break down the structure of tithing, we will see that it was a divine commandment given only to the Israelites, and its purpose was to maintain the priesthood, support the poor among our people, and keep the feasts of Yahweh. The law of tithes, given only to Israel. Yahweh established the tithe as a commandment for the Israelites to provide for the Levites, since they were chosen to serve in the tabernacle and later the temple. The Levites were given no land inheritance like the other tribes, so their portion came from the tithes of the people. Numbers 18:21. And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tenth in Israel for an inheritance, for their service which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. This verse makes it clear that tithing was not a general principle for all nations. It was a system designed specifically for the Israelite priesthood, a priesthood that does not exist among the heathen. Deuteronomy 14:22-23. Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed, that the field bringeth forth year by year. And thou shalt eat before Yahweh thy power, in the place which he shall choose to place his name there. This passage reveals that tithes were given from agricultural produce, not from wages or monetary income. It was a requirement for the Israelites, not for the other nations. Types of tithes and their purpose. Tithes were not just one general offering, but had different purposes to sustain the nation of Israel. There were four main types of tithes. The Levitical tithe, first tithe. Given to the Levites for their service. Scripture, Numbers 18:24. But the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer as an heave offering unto Yahweh, I have given to the Levites to inherit. The Levites, in turn, had to give a tenth of what they received to the priests, Kohanim. The priest's tithe, tithe of the tithe. Given by the Levites to the high priests. Scripture, Numbers 18:26. Then ye shall offer up a heave offering of it for Yahweh, even a tenth part of the tithe. The festival tithe, second tithe. Used by Israelites for feasts and celebrations in Jerusalem. Scripture, Deuteronomy 14:26. And thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatsoever thy soul desireth. This tithe ensured all Israelites could rejoice before Yahweh. The poor tithe, third tithe. Given every 3 years to support widows, orphans, and the poor among Israel. Scripture, Deuteronomy 14:28-29. At the end of 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. And the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow shall come, and shall eat, and be satisfied. Who collected the tithes? Tithes were not collected by pastors or religious leaders outside of Israel. They were handled by the Levites, and only they had the authority to distribute them. Nehemiah 10:38. And the priest the son of Aaron shall be with the Levites, when the Levites take tithes. Since there is no functioning Levitical priesthood today, the modern practice of churches collecting tithes is a false doctrine. No heathen can lawfully claim tithes because they were never included in this covenant. Tithing and the lost tribes of Israel. The scattered tribes of Israel were punished for their disobedience, which included neglecting the laws of tithing. As a result, they were cast among the heathen. Malachi 3:8-10. Will a man rob Yahweh? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house. This passage is often misused by Christian churches to demand money. However, it was written to the Israelites, not the world. The phrase storehouse refers to actual food stored for the Levites and the poor of Israel, not money for pastors. Tithing and Yahawashai. Yahawashai acknowledged the importance of tithing, but warned against hypocrisy. Matthew 23:23. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law. This shows that the Israelites continued tithing even under Roman rule. But the leaders were corrupt, neglecting justice, mercy, and faith. Is tithing required today? Since the Levitical priesthood is not in operation, tithing as a law is not currently enforceable. However, Israelites can still support righteous causes, not through forced payments, but through free will offerings. 2 Corinthians 9:7. Every man according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for Yahweh loveth a cheerful giver. We are no longer under the temple-based tithing system, but we are still called to help our brothers and sisters in need. Conclusion. Tithing was a law given only to Israel to support the Levites, maintain the feasts, and care for the poor. The modern church system has corrupted this law by demanding money from people who are not under the covenant of Yahweh. The scattered Israelites must understand that tithing was never meant for the heathen. It was a sacred duty for the children of Jacob. As we return to the laws of Yahweh, we must also restore righteous giving in a way that supports our own people, not religious institutions that have no part in our heritage. Shalom. Livestock and resources to support the Levitical priesthood, which was responsible for performing sacrifices and maintaining the temple. This system ensured that the nation remained in spiritual alignment with the Most High, as the priestly service was central to the atonement of sins and the continuation of Israel's covenant blessings. However, in Malachi's time, Israel had become lax in their obedience. They withheld their tithes and offerings, thus failing to support the temple and the priesthood. This was more than an economic issue. It was a sign of spiritual decay. By neglecting their duty to sustain the Levitical order, they were indirectly rejecting the very structure that kept them connected to the Most High. This disobedience provoked his anger, as it demonstrated Israel's lack of faith and reverence. The rituals of service as a safeguard against sin. The laws given to Israel were not just for ceremony, they served as a safeguard against sin. The temple rituals, including sacrifices and offerings, were acts of obedience that kept Israel in right standing with the Most High. Each sacrifice had a purpose, whether it was for atonement, thanksgiving, or purification. These rituals reminded Israel of the cost of sin and the necessity of remaining holy. When the Israelites withheld their tithes and offerings, they disrupted this system of spiritual maintenance. The absence of proper sacrifices meant that atonement was not being made as required. The neglect of temple service meant that the nation was not fully engaging in the worship and devotion that set them apart. Without these rituals, Israel was left vulnerable to idolatry, wickedness, and divine judgment. The consequences of disobedience. The Most High's anger in Malachi 3:8 was not without cause. Throughout Israel's history, every time they strayed from the laws and commandments, they faced severe consequences, whether in the form of famine, captivity, or destruction. Their disobedience to the command of tithing and offerings was symptomatic of a greater spiritual problem. They had lost their fear of the Most High. Malachi later reveals that because of their failure to honor the Most High, Israel was cursed, Malachi 3:9. This follows the pattern seen in Deuteronomy 28, where blessings were promised for obedience, but curses were guaranteed for disobedience. The Israelites were meant to live under divine order, and when they deviated from it, they suffered both physically and spiritually. The relevance to the scattered Israelites today. This message is still relevant to the descendants of Israel today, particularly those who are scattered among the nations. Many have abandoned the holy commandments, embracing the customs of the heathen rather than the laws of their forefathers. Just as in Malachi's time, When Israel neglected their obligations to the Most High, they found themselves under judgment. Today's Israelites also suffer because of widespread disobedience. The Most High's system of righteousness has not changed. The laws, commandments, and rituals of service were designed to keep Israel in alignment with Him, ensuring their prosperity and protection. To return to obedience is to return to the covering and blessings of the Most High. Conclusion. Malachi 3:8 is a stark reminder of the consequences of disobedience. The Most High accused Israel of robbing Him, not just in a financial sense, but in their failure to uphold the divine system that was meant to keep them holy. The tithes and offerings were not merely about giving. They were about maintaining the spiritual order that protected Israel from sin. By neglecting their commanded way of life, Israel provoked the anger of the Most High, resulting in curses and hardships. This lesson remains relevant today, as the scattered Israelites continue to face the effects of straying from their heritage. The path back to righteousness requires a return to obedience, embracing the laws, rituals, and commandments that were given as a safeguard against sin. Only through this can Israel restore their covenant relationship with the Most High and receive His blessings once more. The Israelites, set apart and bound to Yahweh. From the beginning, the Israelites were not just another nation among the peoples of the earth. They were chosen, set apart, and tethered to Yahweh in an unbreakable bond, like links in a divine chain. Each generation was connected to the covenant given to their forefathers, and with that connection came both blessing and responsibility. However, when Israel disobeyed, the curse followed, bringing oppression, exile, and suffering. Yet, because Yahweh is faithful to His word, the redemption of Israel is inevitable. The scattered tribes will return, restored to their rightful place of honor and blessing. Israel, chosen to serve Yahweh. Deuteronomy 7:6. For thou art an holy people unto Yahweh thy power. Yahweh thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto Himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. The Israelites were not chosen randomly. They were appointed by Yahweh to be His representatives on earth. This meant they were given the laws, commandments, and wisdom that no other nation had. They were to be a kingdom of priests, Exodus 19:6, a people who would carry out the will of Yahweh on earth. Their connection to Yahweh was not optional. It was sealed in a covenant that stretched from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to every generation that followed. Like links in a spiritual chain, each descendant of Israel was tied to the promises, responsibilities, and consequences of that covenant. The consequences of disobedience, the generational curse. Deuteronomy 28:15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe to do all His commandments and His statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. With privilege came responsibility. The Israelites were warned that if they broke the covenant, the curses would follow them, not just for one generation, but for many. The disobedience of the fathers would bring suffering upon their children, their children's children, and beyond. Exodus 25. For I, Yahweh, thy power am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. When Israel strayed, the chain of blessings turned into a chain of punishment. They were made to suffer captivity, oppression, and exile. History shows this pattern clearly. The Assyrian and Babylonian captivities, Israel and Judah were conquered and carried away because they turned to idolatry. The Roman siege of Jerusalem, 70 AD, the Israelites were scattered across the earth because they rejected the covenant. The transatlantic slave trade and worldwide scattering, the scattered Israelites, descendants of the 12 tribes, have suffered under oppression, confirming the curses of Deuteronomy 28. The suffering of the Israelites is not random. It is the direct result of breaking the commandments of Yahweh. But this curse is not permanent, for the covenant remains. The promise of redemption, the restoration of Israel. Deuteronomy 31:3. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither Yahweh thy power hath driven thee, and shalt return unto Yahweh thy power. Then Yahweh thy power will turn thy captivity, and have compassion upon thee. Yahweh never breaks his word. Though the Israelites were punished, they were never forsaken. The same way their fathers were delivered from Egypt, they will again be delivered from the lands of their captivity. Isaiah 14:1. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. Though Israel has suffered under oppression, Yahweh has not forgotten his people. The same people who were cursed will soon be blessed beyond measure. They will be restored to their inheritance, given power over the nations, and reign under Yahweh Shai as kings and priests. Conclusion: Israel's chain will be restored. The Israelites are a tethered people, connected to Yahweh through an everlasting covenant. Their obedience brings blessings, but their disobedience brings curses. The generational curse has followed them for centuries, but it will soon be lifted. Why? Because Yahweh keeps his word. He made a promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that promise will be fulfilled. Israel will be redeemed, restored to glory and honor, and placed back into the blessings that were meant for them alone. The suffering will end. The broken chain will be repaired. Yahweh will place his people back into their inheritance, and the scattered Israelites will rule again. Jeremiah 33. For lo, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith Yahweh, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. Shalom. The redemption of Israel is near. Tivinakal.